Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast, your number one resource for everything college hockey, Husky hockey, NCHC, everything along those lines. We've got you covered. And it's just great to see a return to form for some of our scorers for the Huskies. We got Mietnin back on the score sheet. We got Bradzinski. We're going to take any goal Walker can give us.
That's right.
So empty netter, I'm going to take it.
It was a nice get off the schneid weekend. Can we play CC every weekend?
I swear to God, when he shot that, I thought he missed the net too. I don't know if it got partially deflected and it still went in or something, but like right in the shot, I was like, ooh, I don't think that's it. And then it went in and I was like, all right, perfect. There we go. 3-goal weekend next weekend for Walker. I'm calling it.
Let's do it. Let's see it.
I'm Weldie, sitting here with Andrew. We're going to go ahead and recap the Minnesota Duluth series and then obviously the two games against Colorado College here, and then kind of head into the big tilt coming up against Minnesota Duluth, and really big tilt along everything in the NCHC as everything's up for grabs. And, whereas, obviously Denver, North Dakota positioning for one overall, that might not make a huge bit of difference when it comes to first round of the playoffs, but obviously frozen face-off, home ice, last change is kind of a big thing. But we'll get into some of those scenarios. The tiebreakers, I tried to decipher that. Andrew is going to get a load of that. But first, let's hop on to Tuesday. So Let's start there. What were kind of your initial reactions after the Tuesday game, coming off of just a bad sweep against Omaha, where we just did not look up to snuff, and Duluth also a little bit ticked off how they played as well, and I was really impressed with overall how the Huskies played, and it was kind of a bummer we weren't able to squeak that one out, but overall I saw a lot of promise. So how did you kind of fare up with Tuesday's game against Duluth?
It was still frustrating. Maybe one of the more frustrating games in this schneid that I suppose we're not on anymore with the sweep of CC, but ending with the Tuesday game, that was a 10-game stretch of 1-5-4 hockey for the Huskies. And this was a good, bookend of that dry spell. They played better than they did in Omaha. Hard not to be any worse. For the first half of the game, I thought it was a lot of the same problems as far as a lot of perimeter, even more than half the period. It seems like the 5-minute major that they got, the power play that they got, after that, which was not a good power play, and I thought could have been a turning point in the game. But after that, it seemed like their game plan changed. That we're gonna move in closer to the net. Enough of these perimeter shots. F it. Let's do that. And Fitzgerald's goal obviously was a goal of that variety of the close in goal.
And even Brett Larson at the end of the game said the first 3 minutes of that 5-minute power play was atrocious. He didn't say that exact words, but he definitely made a point to say that, we thought that could have been a turning point, and it didn't look like it at the start of that 5-minute.
Well, and it looked like it was going to be a turning point for Duluth. Every 5-minute power play is a turning point in some direction. Either the team that is on the power play is going to score a goal or two, or how many ever they can, or a team is going to kill it off, and that gives you a big boost the other way. And that looked like that was gonna be the case for Duluth. And so 46, 47 shots on net total, and Fanti saves all of them except that one from Fitzgerald. No lack of chances from the Huskies standpoint, and just the lack of finishing there. I think that's a game that you clearly outplayed Duluth, and with a lot on the line, frustrating that you couldn't get 3 points out of that, and losing the shootout to boot. It left a kind of a sour taste in my mouth, but
you're right.
And
it was, especially with that, when you say, with all those chances and whatnot, it was definitely one where I thought maybe Fanti got into the Huskies' head a little bit, where it wasn't any more of just trying to do exactly the same thing of what you're doing and trying to do something maybe a little bit more, hesitate a little more to try to get him out of position, and that's just not going to work against Fanti.
Yeah, and just the Huskies, a good way to put their when they struggle. A lot of times and this is going back years. It's trying to be too cute, making one too many passes. I think we saw that against Duluth on odd man breaks. Trying to thread the needle to make the beautiful pass. One too often they did that sort of play, and it does frustrate me because I think there's no such thing as a bad shot on net, and especially when you have such or possession edge that you did against Duluth, just not being able to pop in even one more of those 46 shots in regulation was frustrating. But at the same time, you're right that they played better, and it was encouraging from that perspective that they looked like a good team on Tuesday. It just, I'm used to looking that good and getting a W out of it, and this was sort of this is part of that 10-game slide of just not being able to put everything together in a 60-minute time frame. But I'm probably being a little too pessimistic about it. I even texted you. My reverse psychology worked because I predicted they'd drop one of these CC games. Mostly I'm trying to psych myself out and change up the mojo a little bit, and that definitely did work for the weekend. But you're not going to play a team like CC in the playoffs or in the NCAAs at least. The teams like Duluth that's the kind of quality of teams that you're going to have to knock off, and not seeing. I mean, the one win in that 10-game stretch was against Western's, a tournament team, so it can happen. This team's definitely capable, and they definitely have the skill. It's just the that full effort, and that has not quite been there. But we saw some good things on the weekend, and hopefully that is going to drive them going up to Duluth. Got a lot on the line here. Still have that opportunity to host playoff games and solidify pairwise positioning. Lots to play for. So there shouldn't be any lack of motivation for the team. Let's see which of these two teams. Both, Duluth has not been hot either in the last month. Only 2 wins in the month of February for them. So they're not, and just 2 games over 500 at this point. Your preferred, your dream scenario of Wisconsining Duluth out of the tournament is still on the table.
Still on the table. I mean, there's some work to do, but it's still on the table. So
it's a long shot. College Hockey News has their probability matrix, I think they call it, listed, and they do have the Wisconsin scenario listed at a 10% chance right now. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Hey, I'll take it. One thing that kind of stood out to me about that Duluth game is I felt like the Huskies didn't make any major mistakes, and I think that's kind of the main reason why they were able to. I mean, again, that's kind of tempered a little bit by the fact that they didn't win, but that Omaha series was plagued by mistakes from every corner of the ice, and I felt like they really, kind of kept things a little bit more simple when it comes to that, up until when Fanti kind of got in their head and they tried to get a little bit too cute with trying to get the puck past them. But, I thought they did very strong overall. Defensively, they really neutralized Noah Cates up until obviously the shootout goal. I thought that he was very pedestrian, and anytime that you're going to keep a guy like that off the score sheet, that's you're going to get a really good chance to win. The power play, and I'm so happy that we made that change over the weekend. with Donahue at the point on the power play, and the fact that I have it down in my notes here that he made just a couple of really bad plays there on the power play on Tuesday, and to see him, I know he's kind of been a punching bag to really all of Husky Nation as of late, but just to see him not on the power play and have the success the power play had, against Colorado College. Yes, of course, we can make all the comments we can, but you play the opponents that you have. So it was, I was happy to see that change being made, but I had a feeling that maybe there's some points that were left on the board because we weren't able to convert on any of those chances because of some miscues that happened with Donahue there on the point.
Who's your favorite Donahue? Seamus or Phil?
Phil, he was the talk show, right?
Correct. I know we're alienating all of our Zoomer listeners because this takes me back to my childhood. But yeah, daytime.
Was Phil Donahue like opposite Ricky Lake? Was that kind of the same?
Yeah, I mean daytime, Oprah-esque kind of time slot. Yeah, my mom watched him. So that's how I remember. I mean, I think Phil Hartman did a good impression of him on SNL. I
Yes.
think he
yeah.
Where he's like pounding the microphone against his head. It's great. You don't even really need to know who Phil Donahue is to laugh at that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I might, at this point, I might take Phil Donahue on the power play for St. Cloud.
Why not? Just kind of see what happens. I've never really watched any of those types of shows other than when I was younger. I watched Jerry Springer because that was the thing, I guess, at the time. So
afternoon TV is kind of a wasteland, and so when you got soap operas and then like Sally Jesse Raphael and those kind of trash TV talk shows. So yeah, when you're getting home from school at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, not much on, at least in those days. So yeah, we had no other option. Although
I did have, the time slot when I did come home, usually Married with Children was on. They would have like a back-to-back, so I would watch some of those. And my parents weren't happy about it, but my mom also doesn't believe in censorship, so she was
she's
kind of
torn.
like, well, I'm not happy about it, but I got to stand by my ground here. So I got the benefit of that.
Yeah, I guess I watched a lot of those trash talk shows. Maury Povich, watched a fair amount of him, and
I watched Maury because, like, in college, I used to bet on Maury. Like, my roommate and I would bet $1 on whether or not he was the
paternity test. Yeah, there you go. And didn't what was it? Steve didn't Springer's bodyguard or the main goon he had? Didn't he get his own talk show as well? I remember watching him. He got his own, and
that was more of, I don't know, I don't want to say like a Scared Straight type thing, but it was basically, it was like, you need to get your life together. I'm going to yell in your face, and there's not a bodyguard here to hold you back. So you come at me if you want to. I'm going to mess, that was kind of, I think, the
don't mess with the bull, you'll get the horns.
Yeah, that type thing.
Good stuff.
But back to Tuesday. I was hoping for kind of a repeat of the previous Tuesday game against Duluth where, we scored early in the third and we were going to pop another one in later in the third and take that 2-1 victory. But unfortunately that didn't happen. And then the shootout happened. Noah Cates came in, beautiful goal, which I want to say 3, maybe 4 times Rennick has been beat with that same very move in the shootout this year. I know it happened back to back earlier this year against a team.
But how many times has he been beaten by the let's dive out and try to poke check it? How many times has he been beaten by that? I guarantee that's the last time he tries that in any shootout at any level.
I think
it's worked for him before.
Yeah,
yes.
I think it was successcul earlier this year, and then he tried it.
It's one of those ones though that once you're beaten on it once and it looks as bad as it did, then you're not going to try that again. He's not going to have too much shootout. He's not going to have to worry about shootouts too much longer in his career, at least at the college level. I mean, this last weekend that would be a possibility. So we won't be able to see the that move again. Thank Christ.
I don't know. I don't mind it that much. It's like, oh, well, you're going to take a chance on it. You're going to look dumb if you do it, but you're going to look like a hero if you make it. And I don't know. I don't mind those risk reward plays. Because at the end, all you can kind of do is laugh on it. But
it's a shootout. It's a shootout. I don't like it.
Yeah. And I am not a fan of, and obviously I don't have nearly the shot that, these Husky players do, but I just feel, Noah Cates came in with some speed. And I think that's kind of the way you should approach shootouts. And I just feel like the St. Cloud guys just kind of lollygag, tried to pick their spots. And again, against Fanti, I don't think you got to get them moving. You can't just stay there and then shoot at them to hope you find a corner or an open net.
Not the biggest fan of Brodzinski on shootouts, but that's neither here nor there. What I did want to, I
don't understand why we don't have Miller out in the shootouts, considering that he's probably had like 7 breakaways and scored on 5 of them.
So now that I'm remembering, my memory is so toast at this point, I can barely remember the CC games at this point, much less that. But one point in the game that I thought was interesting was the penalty shot that Granola gets towards the end of the first period.
Yep.
Duluth is on the power play, just on the power play, I think in the first 30 seconds or so. And at the time, I texted my buddy before they made any decision. I said, take the penalty rather than the penalty shot. Now, I know that no coach is going to do that in that situation. I don't think I've seen it where a coach has declined a chance to take a penalty shot, and I get it. I think there would be a scenario where you would do that. I would say like late in the game where the other team's on a power play, so this would be an opportunity to nullify a power play chance, and you're up by 2 goals or something like that. Even then, you could still go for it. I think it's kind of one of those manhood, like dick measuring contests. Like you don't want to make it seem like you're scared of it. It's kind of the same reason like why goalies are pulled so much earlier now. It's kind of like, oh, you don't think I can do it? Here, I'll show you. And I think, I just don't think a lot of coaches are going to pass up the opportunity for a penalty shot. So I get it, even though I would have probably taken the power play, but I get not doing that. But I was just disappointed that Cranola didn't really put much of a move on Fanti, and it was a vanilla Cranilla move. We've seen good moves from him last year in the NCAA's. Gets the penalty shot against BU, and scored there. And so I was disappointed, not only that they didn't take the full power play, but then just didn't give a great shot there. But I thought it was just interesting because you don't see that sort of scenario where it is sort of a debate. Did you have any sort of take the penalty versus power play? I would very much believe if I'm the only one that would want that. But
I actually forgot that was a choice you could make. And then I thought about it for about a quarter of a second, and then I was like, take the penalty shot. Because my whole thought process behind it is you're playing to win. You're not playing not to lose. And I feel like taking the penalty is a completely passive defensive structure, right. And I don't think that shows that you have a lot of faith in some of your shooters. So I would say 99 times out of 100, maybe yes, like you said, late in the game, if there are certain scenarios where you can do it.
Or I'm sure the fact that it's Granola, he's got to be one of your best options to take a penalty shot. If it's a guy like Spalacy who's going to take the penalty shot,
I'd still do it. You don't know what he's going to do. What move is he going to put out there?
That's true. That's true.
The goalie's not going to know.
Couldn't have been any worse than Cranola, what he decided to, his non-move. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up as like a game theory kind of, well, is there an opportunity where you would rather take the penalty shot when you'd rather take the power play? And I say, like I said, most coaches aren't going to pass up the opportunity for a penalty shot, but this was one case where I thought about it.
Yeah, I felt like it was, trust your penalty killers at that time. It's still early enough. But again, I don't like prevent defense. So I felt like, if you've got a chance, especially late in the period, to go up 1-0, you take your golden shot. And, even though the percentages even still favor the goalie, I think it's like 30-some% is a goal on shootouts or whatnot and penalty shots.
That's worse than the power play numbers for St. Cloud, but that's an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be if he would have scored there, that would have been a shorthanded goal, correct?
Yeah.
Shorthanded and a penalty shot goal. I wonder how they would score that in the score sheet. It's got to be a rarity. But yeah, I like those kind of one-off. You never kind of see those types of scenarios. So I did want to bring that up.
So other than that, I don't think, Duluth kind of looked, I don't know, like you said, I felt like that was a game. Like to not get 3 points out of that, it was frustrating, and then not only that, to only get one, it hurt. But at the same time, I was like, okay, there's maybe this team is starting to get things a little bit together by not having all of these mistakes come up over and over again like they did in the Omaha series. Because I thought overall they played a solid game, and that's what I wanted out of them, is to play just solid hockey, and I thought they did a pretty good job of that.
Yes, and I agree with. Do you know if Kate's played against North Dakota previous weekend coming back from the Olympics? Because I was surprised not to hear his name more often, and that penalty or the shootout goal obviously showed his skills there. But I thought they kept him in check. St. Cloud kept him in check pretty well throughout the game, and I was just wondering if he still sort of shaking off some rust or jet lag or whatnot if he had played in the previous weekend. But yeah, I thought that Biondi looked pretty good for them. He's a former Mr. Hockey, and I believe he's the leading scorer, Duluth.
He did not play against North Dakota.
Really? So this would have been his first game back. So yeah, maybe a little bit of rust there. Yeah, like I said, Biondi I thought was pretty good. Other than that, not much offensive, not much to speak of offensively from Duluth. They get their only goal from Kelly, a guy that doesn't score very much.
I forgot. I was gonna bring that up too, and I think you made a point on the last podcast, or at least a previous podcast, about these big goals that are scored against the Huskies by not common goal scorers, and that definitely hurt us against, what was it, North Dakota?
Yeah, North Dakota and Denver.
And Denver.
The second game was the game-winning goal was by some fourth line grinder. It's what I call is the sore thumbs. This was more from watching Twins baseball, but when they're playing the Yankees, and the Yankees would have like 8 all-stars, and then like their backup catcher would be the 9th place hitter. So it's the sore thumb that sticks out in the lineup. It's the obvious bad hitter.
I gotcha. I like that.
And the sore thumb would be the one that get the game-winning hit. So in that 10 game slide, lots of sore thumbs were making you pay, which is never good.
Okay, and that's because you don't have a scouting report. You don't know what they're gonna do. So maybe you put Spalacy out in the next shootout. So that'll be the sore thumb for the other team, right?
All right. Well, let's ship that idea over to Brett and see.
Dear Brett, I think he's on Twitter, right? I'll just DM him later.
He was. I mean, Spalacy got some.
Spalacy on.
I was a little surprised. I mean, he's a senior, and he got, so not surprised there that he got ice time on senior night. But did you see that Jaycox didn't get any ice time on senior night? A guy that's been there for 4 years, or maybe even 5, can't remember. He was benched on senior night. You can tell his stock has dipped quite a bit. Maybe he's injured. I don't know, but I was pretty surprised.
Jaycox was in the lineup on Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think he played much.
I watched the game. I never heard his name, so I must.
He had one shot on goal.
Jeez. Well, don't listen to me. This is episode 254. Don't listen to me.
Don't
Just edit that part out.
I'll edit that part. I'm not going to edit that part out. That was radio gold. So let's switch over. Friday, Colorado College, and just watching that game, I felt it was. I'm trying to think. Did I go to Friday's game? I think I actually went to Friday's game. I've only been to like 2 games this year, sadly.
Luxury box.
Nope, this was I went to the ticket office and said, yes, I'd like a ticket. They said, where do you want to sit? And I'm like, I don't really care. Like, let's I'm gonna stand somewhere. Like,
you kind of get to mingle around.
Yeah, exactly. So so it was kind of weird because as I was sitting there, and maybe this will be on K fans' preposterous statements or whatnot, but it sounded weird as the skates were hitting the ice, and then I saw the puck kind of bouncing around, and I'm like, I think something's just weird with the ice, and then everybody kept slipping all over the place. I mean, there was one shift where, I don't know, like 2 or 3 players kept falling down, and I think even most of these tripping calls were all more a product of bad ice or just than actual trips, because I don't know, it just sounded weird as I don't know, that's kind of a weird aside to how the Huskies played, but
these are the things that you pick up in the building rather than watching it from your house. Ice is slippery. These are some of the big takeaways from actually watching the game in person. Blowing. I'm glad that you're thinking of possible explanations for the amounts of penalties called on the weekend.
I can't just blame the referees, which is probably just the easier thing I can do.
We can.
All these tripping and hooking and just.
Please give me something that I can review.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's first and foremost. I kind of want to give a shout out to Peart on defense. I thought that was probably his best game that he played. And another thing that you pick up is just how good these college players are at catching passes. I thought the Huskies passing, anytime even the passes were in the skates or whatnot, they were able to find it onto the stick. I thought they just did a great job with that. Okabe did a great job, especially catching and throwing out passes, even though he didn't really factor into the score sheet. But again, it was another solid. I thought the defense played well, no glaring errors. Donahue benched on the power play, and we go 3 for 6 on the power play. And I know you can put an asterisk on it and say CC, but it's I thought they moved the puck around well, and there were some shot choices I wasn't really a fan of, especially we kept feeding Brodzinski onto the Ovechkin side, and he kept I think he whiffed on it twice in a row, but him able to get on the score sheet, top of the slot there, able to get from Henches, who obviously was above and beyond. I mean, his 2 goals that he had were just absolutely beautiful. And Meyer kind of starting it off. Overall, I think just top to bottom, it was just a solid game for the Huskies. What do you think?
Yeah, and you said the caveat here is CC. I think that's important. I mean, they're not a good team, and it's a team that she should beat. So I was even just watching the games a little muted in my enthusiasm. But you only play who's in front of you in the schedule. They didn't make the schedule. They just got to play the teams that are in front of them, and I think it's a good weekend to get your confidence back. During that time,
I got a lot of that from Huskies Twitter. After the games and whatnot, about, we can only win at home, can't do it on the road, it doesn't matter, this team's going nowhere, etc., etc. But the big thing that I wanted everyone to kind of take away from this is we won, we looked good while winning. That's better than the alternative. I mean, that's just what I think everything boils down to.
Hockey's a sport that momentum plays such a huge factor in. You go through
Like
waves
jazz.
in the season. Yeah, you go through waves in the season. Every team has times where they're looking great, times when they're not looking great. They have I mean, look at, Denver lost a couple of games in a row. Michigan got swept this weekend. Good teams get swept. Good teams lay eggs for games or multiple games. I mean, and so looking from my perspective, which I would still say is kind of pessimistic. I don't know if I'd go or put it as bluntly as what you're reporting of the online chatter is. I still don't see this team making a significant run in the NCAA's. But this I think sort of stanched the wound, stopped the bleeding from this 10-game slide that was previous to that. And so now, yeah, you'd lose one of those games like I was kind of thinking they might. Then I still think that they would have made the tournament, but one and done is probably what I would have thought. Well, now you have the opportunity to move back up on that momentum, which you don't need a lot. You don't need a long lead up in your momentum. Look at Duluth's their title run from 2018. Barely got into the tournament by percentage points of the RPI, losing that third place game in the NCHC tournament to North Dakota. Thinking the season, it's teams going nowhere, and then they rattle off 4 2-1 wins and win a national title. I don't see that out of this St. Cloud team, but just to give the idea of you can be dead in the water at the end of a conference tournament, you get that chip chair and a chance, and it's possible. And now I think that's
very similar to Yale as well.
Yale,
nobody
Providence,
thought Yale coming in.
Yeah.
So it's
it's certainly possible, and so starting getting off the mat in advance of conference tournament, still in the regular season here for one more weekend, gives you the opportunity to build that momentum going into the NCAA's. I thought that this team peaked kind of in October, and that's never a good time to peak. You're looking at a team like Minnesota, for instance. People are writing them off when their goalie left for the NHL. They're playing, I think that's eight games in a row they've won. Motzko's still their coach, and you can make all the Motzko jokes and the NCAA tournament jokes as you can and will, but they're certainly peaking at the right time. They're at the end of the season, and Huskies are not obviously on that wavelength of eight wins in a row, but they're starting, 2 wins in a row here, 2 convincing wins against, a team you should beat. And now with an opportunity to position yourself, possibly get a home ice advantage in the playoffs. This is all the runs start somewhere. And so you got 2 wins here to maybe start one.
And to your point too about Minnesota is that their run of 8 straight wins are teams they should beat. It's the lower pool of the Big Ten, with Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin.
Ohio State's decent. They're probably going to make the tournament. But but your point is taken. And they did that without 3 guys that were at the Olympics too. Yeah.
So it's again, like I said, it's better than the alternative. So it's getting people back on the score sheet that have been missing. I mean, Brodzinski, I forgot to mention his 3 penalties, his hat trick of penalties that he had against Minnesota Duluth. Finally gets the goal scored there on Friday, gets the monkey off of his back, and has another solid game. What really blew my mind as well is, after the goal, he was involved in a scrum kind of behind the net, and Brodzinski just took it. He didn't swing back, he didn't retaliate, and that was just, I even made a mention. I was like, what is going on? Who is this guy? He scored and he didn't take a dumb penalty? Like this is amazing.
Yeah, and I like that the power play again gets his mojo back. He said 3 for 6 on Saturday, 2 for 7 then on Saturday. Lots of more opportunities on the power play because, as we mentioned before, crap ton of penalties called, and very tough to get a good game flow going on Saturday, especially. A couple of those goals, the first 2 goals on Saturday, I thought, from Vernon's perspective, bleeders, kind of dribblers, but St. Cloud will take them, and
Fitzgerald, I think, was deflected off a CC defenseman.
Yes, and I was surprised to see that it was Fitzgerald because I thought that who did the shot come from? Was it Perbix? Yeah, so it must have been a tip, pretty low. Lutke getting on the score sheet on Saturday. Always nice to see his his name, his effort getting rewarded with points. You had mentioned, Mietin and a bunch of assists this weekend. Micah Miller scoring. Hentges, getting back to him. I don't know if we want. I guess I'll spoil my player of the weekend, but it would be Hentges. Want to just rave about him, and I thought that maybe both of us.
The sponsored by Go Huskies Woo, or the Go Huskies Woo player of the week. He also has Sam. I've got Sam. I think it was an obvious choice, even though there were a lot of good people to pick from. But I mean, Sam was just a spark plug all weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking personally, I don't know about you as well, but I think I kind of downplayed his absence at the Olympics, and I think that was incorrect of me. Obviously, hindsight being 2020, whenever you go, 1 win in 10 games, and he's out for majority of those games, lots of things went wrong, and it'd be nice to have any piece he can to have avoided such a dry spell. But this is a weekend, and with other weekends, this is obviously not his only weekend where he's played this well. But Hentges is, of the forwards, he's the one, I think, that has got a legitimate NHL career possibility. And he showed that this weekend with his sort of, he's got a great shot. He's got those that he uses his size to his advantage. I think he's a great skater, even though that might not be so evident because a lot of the goals he scores aren't the fanciest kind of like we're gonna burn a guy, blow a guy's doors off on a rush type. He's not that kind of player, even though he has that kind of breakaway speed. Lots of his goals come down in that slot area, either with a great snipe or kind of like that goal he scored in the Olympics where he's making a nice move down low and beating a goaltender from close range. If this is the kind of, I mean, if we see sort of like an upper, like a next level Hentges in the next month, then yeah, we're talking about maybe that run to the Frozen Four is possible. Sometimes it just takes that one sort of spark of an offensive player to do that. So very glad to see him, and a reminder again, he's been not just the gone at the Olympics, but injured, riddled through much of the first half of the season. Sometimes you can forget how good he can be, and this was a good reminder of just how good he is.
Yeah, you get him going. You get Brodzinski, you get Nolan Walker back, again, Nolan Walker with the snipe, into the net.
It's a snipe in the box score.
it's a snipe. They don't ask how, they ask how many. But, if you get some of these guys back at it and kind of get them rolling again, we can be that dynamic team again. It is possible. And I know maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but at the same time, that's what season is for. It is for, hopeless optimism. And I am optimistic about this team. And I think if we keep playing solid, fundamentally sound hockey over the weekends against Duluth, I think we're going to have a real good shot at kind of taking it to them and hopefully winning the series. And again, this team is so much better on home than at the road. Now, I think a lot of that may be skewed because we have played teams like Miami and Wisconsin at home, whereas on the road we have, played a little bit more of a, who was it? Denver, I think, was our only away series. We didn't play Denver at home, right?
That's correct.
So, I mean, so like, yeah, your record is going to be a lot better or better at home than on the road when you factor in some of those teams as well. But also, I don't think there's a ton of, teams where they're so much better on the road than they are at home. So, those are very rare. So it's, if we got some work to do, obviously this weekend, to get home ice. Omaha and Minnesota Duluth didn't do us any favors on Friday, or should I say, Denver didn't do us any favors on Friday, which maybe is making me rethink also the Omaha series. Maybe that wasn't too bad of a series as they were able to, almost sweep the Pioneers, and probably should have if it wasn't for some lucky and boneheaded plays by Omaha. But it's huge weekend obviously coming up. A team that we know very, very much, or a team that we're very, very familiar with. So I think we got the team to do it, and this is the time to show that we can win on the road. And that's what I hope to really look for out of the Huskies this weekend.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I mean, I would love to see it from the Huskies. From a betting perspective, yeah, I just don't see the road winning turned around here to the extent of being able to win a regulation game and then go to overtime in a second game, which is what you need to do in order to get home ice. I'd love to see it, and hey, Duluth dropped a game to Miami. That's not a good result. And they're, like I said, they're not playing super hot hockey at this point. So maybe their dauber's down a little bit, and you can capitalize. It's possible.
What? Their what is down?
Their dauber is down. That's a phrase, I think. You can Google it. I don't know what a dauber is, but
I think it's a coach, isn't it? Was it that dauber?
Boy, I don't. I get the reference. I think a dauber is something like horse related. Maybe it's a horse racing phrase of some sort. Not sure. This might be a reconnoitering thing, but I'm pretty sure that's a phrase. Their momentum is not up, and St. Cloud, at least with this sweep of CCs, is. So maybe you can use that to your advantage and get this weekend, get a favorable result, sweep them this weekend. That would be great. And losing that shootout as it turned out, not a huge swing. I mean, so if they would have won that, you're still, if you weren't going to win, even if you're going to win in regulation, you would have been 1 point behind, and you were still going to need to win a majority of points in Duluth to get home ice. You weren't going to go into Duluth with a point advantage, I don't believe. So, and it's almost, I like the fact that it's not like they have to win. They have to win 2 games here in order to win it. It's like, keep it simple as far as, don't think that you have to do all this crazy math. Well, if we tie here, and just keep it simple. Win 2 games, you get home ice. You can. There are tiebreaker scenarios which we have read over. It's a little confusing, and we're going to spare the listeners a lot of that confusion. But from what I can tell, you need at least 1 regulation win, and then you need to go to overtime in a second game, and at least, well, that would do it. 4 points to Duluth's 2 by getting a regulation win for St. Cloud. That would force a tie between the two teams, and then St. Cloud would win that tiebreaker, and that they would finish in fourth place. St. Cloud actually still has an opportunity to finish in third, believe it or not. That would take a St. Cloud sweep and Western Michigan getting swept at home to Miami. So not a likely combination of results there. But third place is actually still in a very remote chance of that happening. St. Cloud can finish anywhere from third to sixth. And so a lot on the line there. Looking at the rest of the conference, North Dakota, Denver, and Western Michigan have all clinched home ice. CC, Miami, and Omaha will all go on the road in the first round. But we don't know any seeds at this point. No seed has been locked into place. It's going to be either North Dakota or Denver at number 1 and 2. Yeah, the order between those two is up for grabs. 3 through 6 is kind of a blender. And it's either going to be CC or Miami at the bottom 2. We just don't know the order between those two. So, I mean, we kind of can grasp the general picture. I would put the percentages at 75% chance you're going to get that St. Cloud is going to get Denver, or is going to get Duluth in the first round. I'd put it at 24.9% that you're going to get Western in the first round, and then 0.1% you're going to get Omaha. There still is possibilities that you could play Omaha in the first round. But most likely it's going to be Duluth back-to-back weekends here. And so be great to play that playoff series on home ice. Been saying this for a while now. We kind of knew, we saw the situation, I don't know, middle of January, that it was between, Duluth and St. Cloud, right in the middle there. Probably going to be a playoff series between those two. So looking like that's going to be how it shakes out. But we'll never know until how the games play out. And Western, like I said, it's possible to play them. Western's not. Talk about a team like road teams. Well, it's tough to win on the road. Western's not that great of a road team. They swept CC there earlier this month, but I think that's their only road wins in conference. They've only beaten Miami and CC on the road this year. I mean, they got swept by North Dakota this last weekend pretty handily. Denver swept them earlier in the year out there. Both St. Cloud and Duluth beat them, and then also went to overtime with them. So Western's had a tough go at it. Just winning on the road in general is a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
And St. Cloud's going to have to do that this weekend in order to host the playoffs. Let's hope it happens.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing anything of what exactly is a dauber. But yes, Dauber was the assistant coach on Coach.
On the
TV
television show. Okay, I was wondering.
What did you think I was talking about?
Oh, I thought you were talking about an actual coach whose last name was in real life.
Coach Hayden Fox. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't. I only watched a couple of. I don't really know Coach all that well. It was like the Minnesota Fighting Eagles, though, wasn't it? Or Screaming Eagles, maybe. That was the fictional team.
Yeah, the Minnesota State Screaming Eagles.
Oh, it was Minnesota State. I think that was even before Mankato kind of made it.
Yeah, that was before
change.
Yeah, exactly. If you were to guess how many seasons Coach went,
I'll go 7. I'll go 7.
9.
9
seasons.
9 times of seasons.
9 times. 9 times.
200 episodes of Coach.
That's a lot. Craig T. Nelson, right?
Yeah. I wonder if there's a podcast that goes through recaps old episodes of Coach. Do you want to start that? Should we do that in the off season? Should we just start watching Coach?
Yeah, we've got to have some content in the off months. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy you kind of went through, or you read some of those tiebreak scenarios, and it's like some of these tiebreak scenarios against Minnesota Duluth. I've been spitting my head trying to figure it out, and I've decided just to kind of give up on it until Friday after that game, and then just kind of see where everything fell after that.
Maybe we can ask Jim Rich what the what the format is.
Jim Rich needs to get like just a spreadsheet of everything.
It's not.
Like,
I mean,
all of the points of what who gets what in overtime.
we ranted after the Minnesota debacle, which was the first overtime game of the year. We ranted about how confusing it is and how bad for college hockey the current overtime format is. But we figured it out after one game what the format was. It's really not that tough. I mean, it's not once after regulation, then that each team gets 1 point, and if you win the 3-on-3 or if you win the shootout, you get an extra point. But he did this the first time they played Duluth, where he's like, overtime, whoever wins here gets all 3 points. Like, nope, that's incorrect information, Jim. And it's really shouldn't be that difficult for the
and at the same time,
broadcaster.
Somebody's got to correct them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like that's the thing, and maybe it's because it's a student. Maybe the producer is not like, I'm not going to correct Jim Rich.
Well,
so
I'm disappointed. Another way I wanted to change the mojo was to throw it back to my old boys, KVSC. I realized why I went off that, though. It was somewhere, I don't know, the Western Michigan, like a while ago. I think it was like when they played Western Michigan. Their feed was ahead of the video feed, which is I can't do anything to sync that up. If it's the other way, if it's the video is ahead of the radio, I could pause the video until for 15 seconds or whatever it is, for it to speed or to match up the audio and the video. But I can't do that with the radio. I can't pause the radio. You know what I mean? Because I'm just streaming it from my phone. So that it's a no-go, and it's like I'm frustrated because I really don't like Rich and Micheletti at all, and I like those guys at KVSC a lot better. So
what were your thoughts on Gino on Tuesday?
He's better than Micheletti, but that's not high praise. But he's all right.
I like Gino's. He's Gino Parrish, so he's gonna have he's gonna be a little bit more colorful and a little bit more. I don't want to say animated because Micheletti's animated in kind of a different way, but he's just gonna have kind of a better perspective, I think, about the game and whatnot. So I really enjoyed Gino on the.
He's at least he's a Husky, Can't say that about Micheletti.
No, that's true.
And so at least it comes from a real place, like his fandom. Yeah, I thought Parrish was fine.
And I like a little homerism in the color guy to an extent. I remember years ago there was a Duluth. It was just absolutely nails on the chalkboard. The color guy for Duluth, where back when they didn't have HD, it was just absolutely.
So like
atrocious.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 years ago. It was absolutely atrocious to listen to because it was like everything was. Why wasn't that a penalty on that team?
Oh well, the guy they have now does the same damn thing. They've never had very good announcers.
It was turned up to 11. So yeah. Any kind of last words? I know we were kind of a little bit all over the place. Any last words? Any more praise? Really, we can kind of dish out. Just going through, that third period. On, I didn't want to start clenching, but when Colorado College kind of popped in too, in very short order there on Saturday, it was just like, don't do this, don't let this one get away now.
Well, I think then they got a power play right after that too.
Yeah, and then Henches scored on that, so then it was like, okay, I can breathe easy now.
Yeah, that second goal from Hrenak was not good, but like I said, Vernon gave up a couple of bleeders himself. So yeah, the goaltending was not top notch the weekend, but that is that's behind us now.
Yeah,
on to Duluth.
Henches, like I said, our players of the week across the board. I mean, right now, 10 goals, 9 assists, 19 points in 15 games played. 6 of them on the power play. So, I mean, that definitely helps there. 18%, 19% shot percentage. Like you said, we have a different forward lineup when he's in there, and when he's on his game, he's really one of the best in the conference. So, kind of going around really college hockey in general. And some of the other some of the other conferences are getting ready for the tournament time here. Like talked a little bit about Minnesota, how they kind of snuck up, and with Michigan faltering there, they were able to sneak that Big Ten regular season title away. So that was a little bit of a surprise, and that they were able to kind of take care of business there. And then you got out east, you got a lot of them starting out in those conferences, with 12 or so teams or whatnot. A lot of their top teams get by, so you got a little bit of whole hum series out there. But anything kind of catching your eye here this weekend that's not NCHC related?
Couple, yeah. So Big Ten, going back to a bit of ours, a season-long bit, with Minnesota waxing the Badgers. That brings Wisconsin to 9 wins.
Oh, there we go.
Coming into a series now at Notre Dame, who actually they've beaten at least once, maybe twice in the season. But we said at the time, after St. Cloud beat Wisconsin, after they waxed Wisconsin in late October, said it was going to be a struggle to 10 wins. I think we've already won that prediction because it's been a struggle to 9 wins. Do they get to 10 by in this series against Notre Dame?
I mean, probably. I don't
think they're going to win one of these games. Notre Dame's playing pretty good right now.
They're playing.
It's coming off that
right
sweep
now.
of Michigan.
Coming off that sweep, I think might be a little bit of a letdown. Coming off there, I don't know. It's Wisconsin. It's Notre Dame. I've never put either program, or I was gonna say I never put either program on too high of a pedestal, but obviously in early 2000s, Wisconsin was early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, they're like 5 or 6 national titles. That's a hot take.
Yeah, but
I like it.
It's more of their style of play, and it's more of the shut them down, boring, then counterattack type, and kind of stack everyone in front of Brian Elliott. That ticked me off. And Rumpel throwing his stick and Husky players.
Those are some gross teams. That 06 team. That was like the height of the trap era too.
Yeah.
Just hockey in general. I mean, NHL took a season off because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were the perfect team to have won a national title in that year. But yeah, I didn't realize they got shut out all weekend last weekend. 5-0 and 8-0.
That was mid-February. That was only 2 weeks.
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago.
So,
but we'll see if they can get to double-digit wins.
The main thing is, like you said, we're right. It was a struggle for them to get double-digit wins,
and we're counting overtime wins in that. So I mean, even some of those are asterisk worthy. So yeah,
they're 2-2 in overtime.
We can wrap a bow or tie a bow on that bit next weekend once we know whether or not they got to 10. As far as
we're so good at predictions.
Well, here's I'll give you another one right now. CCHA playoffs starting. Minnesota State, top seed. They won. I don't know if they're not in the WCHA anymore. I don't know if they're giving away the McNaughton still. Maybe they transferred that trophy over. Are they? So, okay.
The McNaughton Cup technically is owned by
Tech.
Michigan Tech. Yep.
So they just brought it over to the new.
So they just brought it over to the CCHA.
What was the? I mean, is this technically the old CCA? Because they had, I think it was the Mason Cup. I think that was their postseason tournament or postseason trophy. I wonder if they got that off out of mothballs, or if they have come up with a new tournament champion trophy. But anyway, so Minnesota State wins that conference easily. They're going to be playing St. Thomas in the first round.
I made a tweet. What did I say? Man, it was such a good tweet too. I'm so good on Twitter, guys. It was like, if you would have given me 1,000,000 to 1 odds 20 years ago that CCHA Commissioner Don Lucia would be giving the McNaughton Cup out to Minnesota State,
to Mankato,
who's won 5 straight regular season titles, I wouldn't have wasted the dollar.
I wonder if Grant Patulny drove it over in his van.
Yeah, right? In his minivan.
Were they playing Northern Michigan that weekend? I wonder. But so here's my question for you with Mankato playing St. Thomas. I'm going to set the over-under of margin of victory for these two games at 12.5. Over or under. So combine the scores. This is like the 80s NCAA two-game combined score fashion.
Okay, you're saying 12.5?
12.5 is the combined margin. So, like the Gophers this weekend won 5-0, 8-0. That would be a 13-goal margin of victory.
Yeah.
So, is Mankato going to be more over or under 12.5 margin of victory? Really?
Under.
Okay.
12. I think 12.5 is too. I mean, that's like what? Like a 6-1, 6-1, and you're still.
Well, like I said, Gophers versus Michigan or Wisconsin would have been 8-0, 5-0, which I think those would be viable scores for Mankato St. Thomas. So you're going to take the under. I'll take the over. Let's put a pin in that.
I think that's too many.
Playoff hockey. It's so tough to beat a team twice in a row in the playoffs. So you're going that route.
If you give me 9.5 or 8.5, I would have had to.
I thought I was being a little conservative.
12.5.
We'll see what they're. Let's see what they're. Okay, so this is their season series this year: 9-0, 5-0, 5-1, and 7-1. So in one of those weekends they were 14, and in one of those weekends they were 11. So I'm kind of splitting the difference there. So
fair enough.
As far as the other series, that's probably the best.
All this talk about how I'm saying that you're giving way too much, and it'll be a 12-goal margin, and see, I was right. when it really doesn't actually prove my point.
I would say you had mentioned ECAC, Atlantic Hockey, I guess those two, we're kind of going through the lower seeds this weekend. So there's not a ton of compelling matchups in these early round playoff series. CCHA probably has the best of the bunch, just based on the fact that it's the entire 8 teams in the tournament. I'm going to pick... Minnesota State obviously will breeze versus St. Thomas. Tech shouldn't have a problem with Ferris State. Northern Michigan and Lake Superior should probably be a decent series. I don't really have a dog in that fight. But I'm going to go with Bowling Green upsetting Bemidji. I'm going to call that as my upset special in the CCHA. Bemidji has not been impressive of late. Neither has Bowling Green, really. But I'm going to pick that to be special.
And they've split, I believe, the season series.
I think you're right.
Bowling Green won one of them in overtime.
ECAC, as you mentioned, the top 4 seeds have byes. I just wanted to mention Quinnipiac, who won the regular season title this weekend. Lost 1-0 to Cornell, but then beat Colgate 4-0. That Saturday shutout was their 16th shutout this season.
Jeez.
Which is insane. Their starter, this Parrots, has 12 shutouts. His goals against is under 1. Their backup goalie has 4 shutouts. To put that in perspective, Renek has 2 shutouts this year. Obviously, Quinnipiac's schedule is pretty rough. But 16 shutouts, I had to look back as far as how long back do we have to go to count up 16 St. Cloud State shutouts. Shutout victories.
Wow. 16? Did you do it or
I did.
you did it? Am I guessing the goalie? Or
Guess the
if
year.
I'm guessing the year.
The year that it started, the season that would have started.
16.
16, 17?
So
that season?
I'm just thinking 16 shutouts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, then I gotta factor who the goalie is, and then
it was not as far back as I thought it would be.
Oh yeah. I'm still gonna go with my original guess then. I would say 17-18 season.
You are correct.
Okay.
I would have gone. I thought it was like maybe it's like spans the entire NCHC era, but it basically spans Renak's career. Even though four, and they've had exactly 16 shutouts since the start of the 17-18 season, which was Renak's first year. But Jeff Smith got 4 of those shutouts. So in Renak's entire 5-year career, he's had 12 shutouts.
He's had 12
in less than one full season. This Quinnipiac goalie has 12 shutouts, and he's probably gonna get more because they're gonna play like St. Lawrence is like the best team they could play in their first round series. Gonna get at least one shutout there. So I would say, and this guy I believe is a freshman. Dryden McKay, objects in your mirror,
right,
may appear closer than or are closer than they appear. So I did want to mention that for Quinnipiac. Even though they have this weekend off, as we mentioned, the top seeds there get a bye week. As far as just the, I don't know if we mentioned in the NCHC.
So
North
he's
Dakota
had their starting goalie has had 420 saves this season. Played 25 games.
Oh yeah, a lot of these games are 10 shot. These are McKay specials, 10, 15 shutouts.
16.8 saves a game.
Yeah. And right now, if the season ended, St. Cloud and Quinnipiac, they're the 8-9 right now. So Quinnipiac's a team that St. Cloud could play in the tournament. And it's another season. I mean, this was the year that St. Cloud played him in the Frozen Four. That whole season was, God, Quinnipiac's this paper tiger. They didn't play anybody in the season. Kind of a lack of respect for Quinnipiac. Same kind of stuff happening this year, whereas a lot of people are throwing doubt just based on the fact that ECAC is so bad this year, which I think is true. But I don't think they're going to be an easy team. They're going to be a tough team to play in any round, and I don't know if I'd want to see them in the first round. So, and I don't think, I mean, ECAC teams with St. Cloud, it's like they don't seem to match up very well against those teams. Different style of play, a little more defensive oriented, not the favorite style of play for St. Cloud. So
they're 3-3 in their last 6, and 2 of them were 1-0 losses.
Yeah, I don't think their offense. I mean, they've had a couple of 9-0 wins against Princeton, or they've had some routes, but when it comes to the kind of the tough competition. Yeah, they can struggle to score goals too, but generally, when it comes to tournament time, it's the defense is what's going to win you the game. So they'd be a tough team to play. They'd be a tough draw. But we shall see how how all the pairwise shakes out and all that. But yeah, I did want to mention the NCHC that North Dakota closing in on the Penrose, which I would say is a surprise.
That's a huge surprise.
I got to go back to our first episode when we picked him. I think we picked him like 4th or 5th.
Yeah,
in that range.
Yeah, I did not peg them for in the.
I know you're.
And
this is going to be like
North Dakota did their thing that they used to do all the time in the WCHA, where they have like a mediocre 500-ish first half of the season.
Yep.
Everyone writes them off. And then the second half, I mean, that was like the Hackstall special. You can order that every year.
And now I know that this is going to be like how when you talk up how good you think Omaha is, and I'm like, I know that you hate North Dakota, and I know that gushing about North Dakota is going to make you puke. But I got to say, I got to give it to Barry
No, you don't.
And North Dakota is that, I did not see this coming from them. I think I was on the fence about Barry himself. After he wins the national title his first year, they kind of went into a drought, didn't make the tournament for a couple of years, which is, fire-worthy in Grand Forks. And at that point, it's like, I'm not sure if this was the best hire. I think he's earned my respect over the last few years, rebuilding the team to the powerhouse kind of status, being the number one seed last year, and would have been, right up there in the COVID shortened season. And then this year, as we said, they lost a bunch of guys in the offseason, bringing in some transfers, and even with and facing adversity within the season. Like you said, people were writing them off at several times in the season. That Cornell series, the 8-1 drubbing at the hands of St. Cloud. We thought that Driscoll was kind of done. Well, he's turned it around, and it's kind of turned into the goalie that we thought they were going to get in the offseason. And they haven't clinched it yet. But just one win in Omaha will clinch it for them this coming weekend, or even I think a overtime result will. They're up by 4 points over Denver, so likely that they're going to win the Penrose. And so I did want to mention that. And yeah, as you said, I did watch that Omaha Denver game. That was sort of the only game going on at the third period after the Huskies game had ended. And yeah, Omaha was kind of like, boy, maybe I have to give them some credit here, because a sweep against Denver, did not see that coming at all. And up 2-0, basically halfway through the game. But then they, as you said, shot themselves in the foot with some bad penalties late in the game, and it was not to be. And Denver winning a game that that Denver tends to win, and that Omaha tends to lose as well. We'll see how they respond against North Dakota this weekend.
Carter Savoy in the third draws a penalty, and when I tweeted it, I put draws in quotation marks because I think he did a little bit of. I think he went down a little bit easy.
Was that the 5-minute major, or? Well, I can't. I don't remember that call.
That was the call just before Carter Savoy scored on the ensuing power play. It was
okay.
it was behind the net, and I mean there was that.
Yeah. I was thinking the go-ahead goal.
No, just
that was
Bennings.
That was set up by Omaha taking a too many men penalty.
Too many men, yeah.
And then right after that, taking a 5-minute major. So it was, I think actually the game-winning goal was right after one of the first penalty ended, so it wasn't technically a 5-on-3, but the guy hadn't returned to the play at that point, so it essentially was a 2-man advantage goal. And then, meltdown after that, giving up a couple more. So Denver still has that chance to win the Penrose, and they have CC this weekend, which you have to expect them to handle them. But I would expect North Dakota to win at least one in Omaha. But we shall see. I will say, just checking the scores as I was doing this weekend, and then looking at the standings and the possibilities of playoff positioning, and then pairwise. I love this time of year. This conference tournament push, and then obviously the NCAAs. This is why I do this podcast, and it's why I love the sport.
I feel like this is also, I don't think the Huskies have really been in a situation like this very often lately. I mean, it feels like we've either been in or we've been out. We haven't really been a bubble team very often over the past, quite a while, I would assume. And even now, we're on a very good side of the bubble, but I would still consider us, I'm still watching everything, and I'm still scoreboard watching way more than I would if, we were, solidified a top four team. So.
Yeah, that's that CHN probability calculator has St. Cloud's chances of making the NCAAs at 99.8%. That's running through tens of thousands of simulations. So for those who still think it's possible for the Huskies to crap out of the tournament completely, very, very, very slim possibility of that. And there is a possibility, but a very slim one. And at least with these wins against CC, that erased any possibility of St. Cloud's chance of
getting
Wisconsining out. So that's only up to Duluth to do that at this point. Again, would love to see that. But yeah, it's just a fun time of year, and I'm looking forward to just the next month, 5 weeks.
A couple of questions. First off, with the potential series, or with the series here for SCSU and Duluth, number of beers drank for the average consumer. They're over at Amsoil, and maybe Amsoil or National Hockey Center the week after. I would say 2.5. I think the average of age adult would consume.
Are we doing the over under there? Does Amsoil? It's been a while since I've been there. Do they allow?
Oh, that's true.
Drinks in your seat? Because remember when I was there, you could only do it at one little part of the arena.
I'm pretty sure that's still the case.
Because that puts a crimp to it. I would probably take the under.
Yeah, then
if that was still the case.
Yeah, but I forgot about that, or the curling club you can get into. But yeah, not having it.
Let's just, I was gonna say we should just do it like for the weekend in general.
Yeah,
we'd have to do a lot more than 2.5 as set.
Well, especially if you're counting, going to the grandma's or whatnot before or after, and saw someone get arrested at grandma's, the sports garden, when I went there, a few years ago.
Well, that's what they call Saturday up in Duluth.
I mean, it was a Saturday, so it was. One really good question here by Dunkel. Kind of when you think of what St. Cloud needs to do here that we haven't been doing over the last 4 to 6 weeks to make a similar run that we made last year. First off, do you think it's possible that we can make that run? And okay, do you think it's probable that we'll make a run similar to that? I guess when I say that,
let's say Frozen Four.
I would say.
I would classify a run as a Frozen Four appearance.
A Frozen Four.
I don't think one win does it.
Fine. Yeah, I think you're right there. So Frozen Four appearance. What is kind of the key thing that needs to happen that hasn't been happening, really since the Miami series?
Defense, and maybe Renak turns back into his October self,
or his self from the run
from last year's regional. He wasn't great against Mankato even, but in the regional he was very good against the Boston teams. I'm less confident about that aspect of it, just how his season has. Wish it would be flipped, even though I'm sure that would have meant more losses in October if he was playing like he is now back then. But
it would have been.
Talking about that momentum swing, having him go on the way up going into the postseason. And like I said, there's still time. If he could have a great weekend this weekend, and that could vault him into home ice and they beat Duluth, and then Duluth gets Wisconsin out, and then they win the NCHC tournament. So it's possible. Is it likely? I wouldn't bet on it.
Sure.
I still don't see a run. As we're defining it, a Frozen Four appearance, I'm not seeing that out of the team. But
I just think it's so much to do with matchups. So, I think they were put in a very favorable bracket. And I think that's what you need to make a run, is a favorable bracket.
And they don't really have much control over that.
Yep.
I mean, they have control about how well they play on defense, and Renak has control about how well he plays to some extent. Sometimes it's the opponent you're playing is just better. But you didn't have any control over the fact that BU was probably wildly overrated last year and got into the tournament, and BC was probably a high they were probably higher than they should have been as well. But this is a team that Mankato was a legit opponent, and they were able to beat them. So a lot of that is it's where are you playing it? Did they have a Demi Lovato concert in there the night before, so the ice is all crappy? There's those sort of intangibles that can play a big effect as well. Yeah, you don't have any control over those kind of things. I'm just worried about the things they can control, and I don't think there's less needs to fix on the offensive side, even though that can let you down as well. But just knowing that you can win a tournament as a lower seed by winning sort of low scoring games, defense is what gets you far. And I think that, thinking back to last year, remember how much more defensive they did play. It's almost they kind of changed their game plan to a much more of a trapping style in the tournament. It kind of annoyed me. But I think that's Larson kind of, with his experience behind Duluth's bench for that first run of theirs, or that 2018 title at least. Was he there also in the 2011 season? I know he was there at some point and then came back. But he knows what it takes to win a title. And I was kind of surprised that they thought that they needed to have that much of a wholesale change of their approach, especially in the Frozen Four, I thought. But I hope they don't overthink. Because I thought I was a little overthinking it. But just in general, I think a tighter defensive play is going to be a better recipe for success than, hoping for 6-4 games.
I'm not gonna accuse them of overthinking of it when they made it to the championship game. That was probably the right call on their part.
Yeah, I just remember that even the guys on ESPN, which I'm not gonna say how they, that they did a great job, but it was the first 5 or 10 minutes of that Mankato game, and they had a shot of, boy, look at this trap that St. Cloud's playing. It was like a 1-0 game at that point. It's like, yeah, if you're thinking about trapping down right now and trying to win a 1-0 game here against Mankato for the next 45 minutes or whatever it was, you're not going to win. It's like playing a prevent defense almost. So that's what I remember. And they tried to do the same thing against UMass, I think, too. And they got burned by that quickly.
Yeah.
So I thought the Frozen Four, well, it started with the BC game. Once they got up 3-1 on them. And if you remember that last period, or a period and a half even, they were playing a trap, but they were like our Omaha guy, playing like a 2-1-2 forecheck. And they had like this kind of an aggressive 2-guy forecheck attack, plus sort of the going it up in the neutral zone, and it worked like a charm. That was the best sort of defensive game that I think the Larson teams ever played. And I think they sort of they fell in love with that. And they're like, we have to copy and paste that from here on out. And they were lucky to beat Mankato, I thought. And then they just got slaughtered by UMass. So I understand you have to change it up a little bit in the playoffs, but to the extent that they did, I thought that didn't help them to some extent. So, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I hope that they can get that favorable draw, as you said, and just that they're playing well going into the tournament. Last year, had that. It was a frustrating loss against North Dakota in the NCHC title game, but they played really well in that game, I thought. And going, I had beaten Duluth going into that game. So even though they weren't on a winning streak going into the tournament, I thought they were playing their best hockey of the year. And that's important going into the NCAAs.
Yeah, and when you say defense, I'm even gonna nail it down a little bit more specifically to not only just defense, but just eliminating defensive turnovers. It just seems like that's where we get burned the most, is just when we try some kind of fancy stretch pass or whatnot instead of the simple type of play, and all of a sudden the puck goes in the other way and it's behind Redneck. So eliminating those, it should be step one. And I think once that happens, if that does happen, and I think we're going to be a very tough team to beat. And I hope that just continues on as we play Duluth this weekend. Is St. Cloud still the suckiest sucked that ever sucked? So that was I don't know many. I don't know many Simpsons references, but I do know that one.
Who was that? Like a troll? Is that like a non-St. Cloud fan or?
Oh, he's a big St. Cloud fan. But
good.
It was a little bit of a tongue in cheek. I think he just wanted. I think Euro just wanted to throw in a Simpsons reference right there.
There you go. I know Euro.
Hal asked what this team looks like for next year, and to tell you the truth, I don't really know, and I'm a little bit also still confused with eligibility among COVID and whatnot. Obviously, on senior night, we were honoring a lot of seniors, so there's a lot, we're going to be losing in that instance. But, we'll save that. We'll put a pin in that, I think, for, once the season concludes to see what's kind of on the horizon.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it's the guys, there are guys that could come back for a fifth year. The guys that we definitely know are gone. Renak, Fitzgerald, Brodzinski, Donahue. There's probably a couple of others that I'm forgetting. Those for sure. So it's a transitional year, I think, because this is a 5-year run of Renak basically being the start of the entire time. That era is going to be done. And I'm not huge on Castor. I'm not a huge Renak fan, but I'm not sure if Castor is the answer either. It doesn't seem like they have a guy in the pipeline. I know that Mick Hatton lists St. Cloud recruits and how they're doing in his write-ups on the Rink Live, and he only lists one goalie there, and he's not having a good season in the USHL. And so I don't know if they're going to run with this Lamoureux and Castor they have, or bring in a transfer guy. I mean, it almost kind of screams transfer situation if you want something like that. And as far as the other incoming guys, just based on what I've seen from Mick Hatton, this Adam Ingram seems to be their top prospect coming in. Some draft projections have him in the first round. Most have him in the second or the third. But he's having a great year in the USHL right now. I think he's at Youngstown. Canadian kid, but a high-scoring forward. And so he seems to be the hypiest recruit currently in the system. I'm looking forward to seeing him, assuming he's coming in next year. But yeah, it's not my biggest. I know there's other Husky fans that are really into recruits. It's certainly not my area of expertise. And once we kind of know who's gone, not only from graduate, guys graduating, but there might be some pro, turning pro. And then there might be how active they are in the transfer portal. And that's going to be interesting because I think that you have been sort of on that train of should have been more active this year. And I think you're right. Based on the results that we got this year, just so many games of lacking that finishing touch from a scoring standpoint. And then I would not be surprised if they are active in the transfer portal on the goaltending side as well. So once we know all the pieces in place, then we can sort of speculate, but it's tough to do without knowing who's gone and who's coming in.
Then the last one, friend of the show, Dan Jacobson asked me, why is Bo Burnham's inside so good? And yeah, I thought that definitely got snubbed come awards season. But I absolutely love. I mean, I love Bo Burnham's comedy in general. I don't know if you've watched or really know of Bo Burnham.
I know of him. I can picture him, but and he does like a lot of the parody songs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I know the bit. I'm not huge. I don't know all of them, like really.
Yeah. And his stand up also like encompasses more of a concert feel too. So he really kind of does a unique blend of the immersiveness of a concert also mixed in with the funny songs that he does.
He's like Richard Cheese.
Yes, more funny though. Like his songs are just jokes.
You calling Richard Cheese not funny?
I'm saying that he does the swing version of Stairway to Heaven, and that's funny, but I think it's not a joke.
Okay, I understand.
So, but I mean, the fact that Bo Burnham did the whole thing in, when COVID lockdown hit in his own room, like did all the lighting and everything. And I just thought everything was so meticulous and so well done, edited, just the production. Some of the bits I thought were also incredibly funny. But then, he does some songs. Welcome to the Internet, I think, is just a brilliant song. Just absolutely hilarious. I can't gush more about if you haven't watched it. I think it's absolutely remarkable. It's a good mix of, things aren't well, but I'm really enjoying it. Kind of. It's really unique how everything is done. Absolutely, I love it.
I might have to check that out. Thanks for the recommendation.
You definitely should. Let me know. How about this? That's your homework, and then you can give me a review. What did you think of it?
Sure. Where can I get this? Is
Netflix.
this okay? I don't have Netflix, but I can work around it. So I'll get back to you.
Perfect.
I'm not a Netflix subscriber. I haven't been for about 5 years. But there's ways.
There's other ways. So well, that about does her for this episode. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back next week as hopefully we recap a sweep.
Yes.
If you give a prediction right now, what do you think happens this weekend?
Do you want my Ducky and Bunny, or do you want my realistic?
Nope, realistic. What do you got?
I think they're gonna split.
Yeah.
4-2 win, 2-1 loss.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of on that same boat. Maybe even optimistic that we're gonna split, but
how about 4-2 win and 2-1 loss in overtime, which would give the St. Cloud home ice.
There we go.
Ending on a high note.
And on a high note. And Duck and Bunny as you say. So perfect. Thanks again, everybody. Reach out to me at More Clappers for anything that you need. You can also email us. Andrew, what's the email again?
That's right. It's Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com.
Perfect. Sounds good. Until next time, go Huskies.
Woo!